now.
Okay. All right, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you are live with us or you are watching the replay. I am Holly, and we are also being joined by another Holly. So I'm Holly Bueller. I don't know if they can see the video. And then Holly Harris, you'll see her in just a second. But so we are calling this Simplified Human Design, and we're going to do our absolute best to simplify, to distill down information from human design that is going to give you easy to understand concepts and practical application tools and techniques. So we want to help you discover who you are and how you interface with the world. And that's what we're hoping to show you in this class tonight. And I don't think that I can do the slides. Can you?
Oh, yes, I need to do that for
Okay.
you. Just tell me next slide.
Anna, next slide. So what is human design? It is a cutting edge personality assessment tool. It is practical. It is simple when you understand it. It is reliable, and it can absolutely be life-changing if you let it be. That is one of the most consistent things that we hear from people, is when they understand what the symbols and the numbers and the words mean and their unique chart, it absolutely changes their life. Whether they're able to let go of something that they've been judging in themselves, or something that they can adopt in and align with, and it gives them a way to really learn how to, or relearn how to trust themselves. So we'll go to the next one.
Ooh.
So human design is a synthesis of a variety of things that have already been out there for a long time. So it blends Eastern and Western astrology. It blends the Hindu chakra system, the Judaic Kabbalah, the Chinese I Ching, and quantum physics. So let's go to the next one. This is what a human design mandala looks like. Now, this is not typically what you guys will get in your charts that you pull online or that we pull for you. But as you can see on the outside here, these numbers on the outsides, well, it's not the numbers, it's the symbols, the little square looking things. That's part of the I Ching. And the numbers on the outside, you'll see there's 64 numbers here, but they're all not in chronological order. And then the next row in, you're gonna see the astrological signs. And then, so what happens here is wherever the planets are, it will land in one of these numbers, and it will activate parts of your chart. So in the very middle here, you see the body graph. It's where it's like a little triangle and it looks like a person. And we're gonna kind of dive into what these are and kind of give you a base foundation so that you can understand these a little bit better. I'll hop to the next one. So what can human design do for you? Your chart shows your specific genetic design. This is going to affirm who you really are, how to be yourself, and how to navigate successfully through a constantly changing world. Your strategy will help you eliminate resistance, and you'll come to understand what these different things are. So some of you may experience frustration, anger, disappointment, or bitterness. And so we're gonna let go of that resistance and fear in order to live in a relaxed, unique, creative, and evolutionary and revolutionary way. One of the base things that we look at when we look at human design is we are going to utilize it as a decision-making tool. When you understand it, it is accurate and it is reliable. And it provides you with the tools that you need to live an aware life and gives you a simple strategy that you can trust, that reliably connects you to your personal authority in order to make moment-to-moment decisions that are correct for you so that your unique life purpose can unfold naturally. So this can help you to understand your behavioral patterns and habits. Human design can reveal why you show up the way that you do. It can help eliminate guilt and shame about who you are and help you to see the beauty in the way that you were created. And while you go to the next one, as you guys have probably seen, all of the charts are so incredibly different. And it gives this really, makes it tangible, the difference, how different people are. So we can discover your unique and creative gifts by looking at human design. When you live in your strategy and your authority, it helps your purpose to unfold naturally. Your chart can help provide clues to your mission and gifts and talents.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, please do.
So one thing that's been huge for me about human design is, at first it felt really confusing when I looked at my chart and I was like, how on earth do I apply this to my life? Like, what the heck? I could spend my whole life trying to understand this. And I mean, there could be a million different strategies to apply this to my life. And then what I realized as I went on is I learned that all you have to do is live your strategy and authority, and your chart will play out. There's nothing you have to do to make it happen. It's living your strategy and authority is what allows it to naturally unfold. And so that's, in essence, the exciting thing is when you learn that, it's like, oh, okay, now all I have to do is just focus on mastering my strategy and authority, and every beautiful gift I've been given will magically unfold. And that's why I feel like simplifying it is so important, because a lot of people get lost in their chart.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So everyone can benefit from human design. So this is fantastic for parents, for children, for your spouse, your partners, your families. You can even take this into any sort of business that you have, into a job, but also if you're an entrepreneur. When we understand our loved ones and those around us, we can show up in a supportive way, and we can create more ease and connection in our relationships. So again, this is the body graph. This is typically what it looks like for you guys when you get a chart from like Jovian, or there's a wide variety of places that you can get it. Holly and I can both pull charts for you guys. We can get you a chart that looks similar to this, what's called the client chart. And then we can also pull what's called an advanced chart for you. Both are really helpful because the basic client chart will show your inner authority, which is going to be really important for you. And the advanced chart doesn't have it written out for you, but a specialist would be able to tell what your authority is just by the mechanics that are in your chart. And I think we're going to, the next slide, I think it goes through kind of the basics of the chart. So this is similar to the Hindu chakra system. Now you'll see that there's 9 energy centers here, and that is because 2 of the original 7 centers in this system had at some point split. So we have the Ajna, which is the top triangle that's facing up. Thank you. The head center is the top. The Ajna center is just below that. The throat center is the square, the brown one. The G center, or some people call it the self, is the diamond in the middle. The heart, or the will center, is to the right. She's showing us right there. The sacral center is the red one in red square in the middle. And then you have the solar plexus, the triangle on the right. The spleen is the triangle on the left. And the root center is the one on the bottom. So the 2, just for your guys' reference, if we have any one lines out there, people who with the 48 defined, you're gonna ask, okay, which were the ones that split? So the spleen and the solar plexus are the 2 that were the solar plexus. And this G center and the will used to just be like the equivalent of the heart chakra.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll see on your chart a bunch of things that are white, a bunch of things that are colored in. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit. So any of the centers that are colored in are defined. It doesn't matter what color they are. There's no additional meaning to the colors. It just happens. Well, the red and the black have additional meanings, but not the centers themselves. Anything that is white is open. You go to the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna scan. We have what the open and the defined is in that too, right? I won't spend time on it just yet.
I don't think we...
Did we take those
no.
out?
Mm-mm.
Okay, really quick. So if it's colored in, it is defined. And what that means, because you have all of the chart, everyone has all of the chart. It just means that that energy is consistent and sustainable and reliable for you. So however you experience that energy is going to be the same. Wherever it is white for you, it is open and receptive to the energy around you. So I have an open ajna and Holly has a defined ajna. So when we come together, our auras, that will become defined in the energy. And so I will experience that defined ajna energy when I'm around her. That's not good or bad. There's no judgment there. It's just the mechanics of it. So this becomes really important when you're looking at how you're experiencing the world. And each center has a different area of your life that it kind of governs, a different energy that you experience in it. But just to scan the system, we have the 9 energy centers. We have the white spaces, which are open and receptive. We have the colored centers that are defined and radiate energy out. We have, and it says in here, the defined is like a transmitter and the open are the receivers. There's 64 gates, and that is, do you want to circle that for them?
The numbers.
These little numbers down here, there's a space next to them that can be colored in or not colored in, and that is a gate. So she's showing right there, the 46 is activated, it's defined, and it's black. And then, so those are the gates. And then the pathways are the channels, and that is when, so the 46 meets with the 29, that is a defined channel. There's 36 of those, and then it takes 2 activated gates to create an activated channel, but whether activated or not, we still call it a channel. Let me grab the next one.
Next slide, okay.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, then it's my turn.
I want to dive into that one.
Okay, the 5 energy types. So everyone has a type, and this is going to be one of your most important pieces of your chart to know, because the type and strategy is where your chart's going to manifest. So there's 5 types. There's the manifestor, which makes up about 9% of the population, and their aura is, it pushes out, is the best way. Would you describe that in any other way?
So some of the verbiage that's used on that is called repelling.
Yeah.
Isn't super,
I don't like that.
comfortable for people. But in essence, the way that I explain is it's kind of like a get out of my way
Yeah.
kind of energy, because as Holly will tell you, why it is that way.
I'll explain that. And so the manifestor's energy kind of like, because it's, oh, hold on one sec here. Let me see, somebody, hey Amanda, could you mute yourself, please? Oh, why it's not letting me mute, there. Hopefully that works. Okay, so manifestor makes up about 9% of the population. And then so manifestor, their energy, hold on one second. I want to put the video on me. Can you see me, Holly?
I can. So if you're the one
Oh, you
talking,
can. Okay.
it usually shows
I
up.
just
Yeah.
couldn't see. Oh,
Yeah, you're good.
okay. So the manifestor makes up about 9% of the population. What makes up a manifestor is they have no, oh my gosh, it totally flew out of my head. They have no motors, right? No, that's
So
all right.
they have no sacral.
No sacral, sorry. That's what I was
That's
meant to say. And then the generator and the manifesting generator have defined sacrals. The difference between a generator and a manifesting generator is a manifesting generator has a motor to the throat and a generator does not. And then a projector, so both of those together make up almost, well, 70% of the population. And then the projector is about 20% of the population. And so and then the reflector is about 1%. So these are the 5 types, and they're grouped according to their ability or consistency to generate or initiate energy or not initiate energy. And so their energy types are the manifestor, generator, and manifesting generator, and the non-energy types are projector and reflector. And so each type plays a role. So oh, we didn't put this in here and it's totally flying out of my head. I might need your help on this, Holly. So the projector is the director, or they direct people. The generators and the manifesting generators are the workforce, and they're the one that build, like if you were to think of it as a play, they build the set. They are, they're acting out the play. The manifestor, this is the one that's flying out of my head for some reason.
So manifestor, it would be like the equivalent of the producer.
Yes.
They get the ball rolling.
Yes, they initiate. So they start it. They might be the one that even writes the play, you could say, or they're going to invite people to, to put on the play maybe. And then the reflector is the person who's sitting back and they're viewing the whole thing. And they're telling you whether you're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
Each type has a strategy, and strategy reflects each type's unique auric mode. It's a way of being in the world without resistance. So if you're not acting in your strategy, then you're going to encounter resistance. And so the strategy is a method that aligns us and supports us in the process of becoming or remembering who we are, becoming our authentic self. And each type has a simple, understandable strategy for efficiently and successfully interacting with others. And this is the great thing about human design, is I feel like it kind of takes the guessing out of life. And that's what I love about it. Each type has an authority. So manifesting generators and generators are going to have a defined sacral. And then emotional manifesting generators, and so a generator and a manifesting generator can also be what's called an emotional authority. So the sacral means that they get their responses from the sacral. It's a and a For a manifesting generator and a generator who have the emotional authority, they still get their response from the sacral, but they also have the emotional wave added on top of it. And so they need to wait out their emotional wave to make decisions. And so there are other types, like a manifestor can have an emotional authority as well. Then manifestors and projectors can have what's called a splenic authority, and it's a quick in the moment decision that's usually you only hear it once and you have to kind of act in the moment and get used to listening to that splenic authority. And then the will and the ego. Would you explain this one, Holly? I feel like I don't have this
is
one.
The one that I'm not super familiar with. Let me actually go back to the book.
It's not very common from what I understand.
It's not very common. And if you think about the structure of it, it's typically like a manifestor, and they don't typically ask for help. They don't typically come to us for coaching. They do, but
they're like,
as a
don't
whole,
tell me what to do kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I know the self-projected. So then the projector, I know this because I told Amanda this the other day, the self-projected projectors only makes up 2% of the population. And so they get their that comes from the G self or the G center. It's the identity center to the throat. And so they need to basically get like talk out what they're trying to understand and get it outside of themselves so they can get clarity. And we were just discussing this before the class, and the environment, there's lots of different names for all of these types. And so it can be very confusing depending on where you're getting your information from. So we put all of them here just so in case you've looked at this somewhere else and you're like, well, that doesn't sound like what I know. So we haven't really decided on specifically what verbiage we want to use yet, just to kind of keep it simple. But we have most of them here, and we put the ones in black that we like or that we feel like we'll probably refer to them as. Yeah, so the mental, and help me again, I am trying to remember the difference between a mental and a self-projected, because this part it's very subtle.
It is, yeah, no, it is very subtle. So the self-projected one, if you have the G center and that's your inner authority, the verbiage around it was that you needed to talk it out and kind of see the reaction of the other person. Now, it's not to say that their reaction is what you need to go with. It's almost like you need that experience outside of you to take place, and then you'll get the insights from that. With the mental one, it was so slight. It was just the act of you getting it outside of you is where you got your clarity.
Yeah. Oh, someone's commenting here.
Yeah, so
Lindsay says, I'm a self-projected projector. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and that's what Amanda is too. So
really quick, the ego one, I just double checked.
Yeah.
There's really not anything that they have to do before they take action. They can just do it.
That was a manifester, right?
It is a manifester. Yeah. And she basically just says, though, you have to be careful. They have to have cycles of work and rest.
Yes.
Or they will burn out.
Okay. And Lachelle says, so is her youngest. Yeah. And my son is a self-projected projector too, actually. So that's kind of cool. So then the reflector, which makes up 1% of the population, has a lunar authority, which basically means they need to wait 28 days to make large decisions. They don't necessarily have to wait 28 days to make every decision in their life, but the important ones, like, you know, where you're going to live or who you're going to marry, or like, I don't know, any other ones you want to add to that. Job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just important stuff that will affect your life. It's because they need to make sure that they're outside of other people's energy and they can sit with something long enough to know if it's right for them. So when you don't follow your strategy and authority, you will meet with lots of resistance. And I'm sure, just as Holly could attest, like, I have experienced plenty of this in my life. And that's why I think I found human design so wonderful. So each type has a not self or out of alignment theme that you're going to experience when you're essentially in that resistance place. And so it can be a little bit different for each type, and we're going to talk about in the slides, like the exact emotion that usually comes with it for each type, because each type has one. Some of us, so in my post I made when I shared that we were doing this class, I talked about how my experience had been that I was experiencing these moments of alignment, and oh my gosh, they were so glorious. And I feel like I remember like having this conversation with you many times, Holly, where I was like, how do I create alignment in my life every day? And I just couldn't
I remember that one.
Figure it out. And it's really cool to like then come into, I feel like human design, like when I really stepped into it, came to me like at the exact right time, because I was ready to, you know, I'd worked through so much stuff that I was ready to start experiencing alignment more often. And what I've noticed and what I found is that, you know, before I was like, this is totally random and I can't explain it and I don't know where the alignment's coming from and it's really confusing and frustrating and annoying even. And now that I'm starting to really apply my strategy and authority to my life, oh my gosh, it's been so fun, because things just like line up and it's just awesome. And it can be, so for me, like, I'm a manifesting generator, and that means I have to wait to respond, which I'm not programmed that way. Like, I didn't come from a family that was like, you know, they were all about you go get it. I mean, they're all entrepreneurs and they are all self-made millionaires. And like, that's not to brag at all, but like, I just came from this family where there was a lot of pressure to like go out and like be successful. And so for me, like waiting to respond was it was not in my nature. Well, it was not how I was programmed, I guess, or conditioned, I should say. And so I experienced a ton of frustration because I was always trying to force things or make them happen instead of waiting to respond to things in my outside world, because I'm a manifesting generator. And so as I've started to do that, it's the really cool thing is it's like, oh, I don't have to force myself. I can just step back and I can wait for something to just show up in front of me, and I don't have to go searching for it or try to force it. And when I act from my authority and my strategy, then I just have a ton of success, which is really exciting and way more fun than experiencing constant frustration. So did you have any stories you want to share about that, Holly?
Oh gosh, I mean, a really similar thing. I'm a manifesting generator as well, which actually, do you guys mind in the chat? So I'm going to be looking at that. Will you tell us what type you are and then what inner authority that you have? And we can kind of talk to you guys custom according to your type and strategy and inner authority. So we are manifesting generators, which makes the sacral response. And we'll talk to you about what each strategy is, what type strategy. But we share that we have to wait to respond to something. The difference between the two of us is I don't have the emotional wave that I need to wait through, and she does. So even just working together, we understood how it worked for each other. And so we were able to ask each other yes or no questions. Some of you guys are going to do horribly with yes or no questions. It's just someone's going to ask you yes or no, and you're just going to hit a wall, and you're going to be like, why can't I make a decision? Like, I'm an adult. Why can't I figure this out? Some of you need to be asked open-ended questions. Some of you guys need time, and we're going to teach you that. But just this, we were able to say what feels good. Is this a, yeah, you know, what about this? What about this? What about this? And we play 20 questions until we fall on an answer that we get a yes, and it feels good. But oh my gosh, I was like trying to force things to happen, and you'll learn. I was getting ideas, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do all the things. I have all this multitasking energy. I'm going to do all the things. And oh my gosh, time and time again, I'd get halfway through something and be like, why did I do that? Why did I commit my energy to this?
I can tell you how many times that's happened to me.
I was trying to make it happen.
In fact, I remember having a conversation with my husband a couple years ago, and he goes, would you just pick a dang career?
And that's very common for manifesting generators. And so we'll go, we'll teach you guys, we'll talk to you about that, you know, in the later slides, but really just no specific instance, just constant thinking that I'm doing something that I'm supposed to, but then looking back, I can see why this didn't work, and I can see why this worked.
Mm-hmm. And so one important thing to note is that for most authorities, you're never supposed to make decisions from the head. And that's one thing I struggled with for me, was it was always like I was always trying to work it out in my mind and like make a decision based on what my mind was telling me, which was the total wrong thing to do. So that's totally kind of I mean, would you even consider like the mental projector? Like they're not really supposed to make decisions from the head either, are they?
It's still not the head. So when we get the ideas and inspiration, society tells us to think it through, be smart about it, just intellectually make a decision. And that's not how it's designed. We're supposed to ask questions, but then manifestors can do that. They can get an idea, choose to do it. But to them, to some degree, they have to factor in they're going to make mistakes. Things aren't going to always work out because so we both learned from Karen Curry Parker, and some of her stuff. And she calls it's like throwing spaghetti on a wall. They just try it out to see what sticks.
Yeah.
But
it's like they have to be in it to know whether it's right for them.
Uh-huh. And so other types I totally just spaced on where I was
going. I think I was talking about none of the types are supposed to make decisions from the head.
Oh, yeah. No, the answers come from somewhere else in the body.
Yes.
So you can ask the questions in the head, be curious in the head, but then wait for the response somewhere else. And
Yes.
as you were asking about the mental projection, the way, so I actually would love to hear from those of you who are mental projected, or self is more in like the heart space. It's almost like they see it outside of themselves instead of thinking about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
But I
that's the
could
way I
be
kind of
totally
see it.
wrong.
It's like they talk about it, and then when it's like out of their body sitting in front of them, they can look at it and get clarity, is kind of the way the energy is, how I see it.
Totally.
I don't know, Amanda and Lindsay, is that how you experience it? That would be interesting to know. It's hard here's the hard thing about human design, even when you're teaching it, it's hard to really, like, you can explain the bits and pieces of it to someone, but this is where it's important to learn what it looks like for you, because it is, even in your types and authorities, wouldn't you say it kind of shows up a little bit different for each person too, Holly? Because it's like they have to understand know their own inner workings, or get to know that.
Yeah. Well, and that's when we go into the deeper parts of the chart. There's so many variables. Yeah. And it's going to tweak things ever so slightly. And so while we can sit here and tell you this is the general nature of how you're going to experience it, you guys still get to put it into practice and say, okay, how does this work for me? And they talk about this. Do type and strategy for a good 6 months. Yeah. Get that foundation down, because we'll tell you later on in this, nothing else in the chart matters until you've mastered that type and strategy and you're listening to your inner authority, because like the man in the little slide here, you're just an uphill battle.
Yeah. Would you say, Lindsay, I feel like from like observing you, and you can tell me if this feels true to you, but it's almost like you're making decisions from a heart space, in that it has to feel good in your heart and you want to feel connected to it from the heart, or from, I guess, the G center, from that place of like, it feels good in my heart sort of a thing. Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, so next slide. So we're
I love that moment, because it's like, you guys together just put verbiage to how the mechanics work for her. I love that.
Yeah. I feel like I've kind of observed her, like, because she shares a lot of stuff that she, like, realizations she has. And so I can see, like, when she makes decisions, she always talks about how, like, she feels it in her heart, or it's like, I don't know, there's an emotionality to it almost. I don't know. That was just my observation. Anyways, so manifestors, we're going to talk about manifestors first. So they make up, it's funny because I put 8 to 10% of the population here. I mean, I've heard 9, I've heard like I feel like it, and here's the thing, don't they get these stats off of like however many people enter their charts into the system? So it's kind of shifting a little bit all the time.
I honestly don't know where they get their stats. And I've even heard that things are shifting a little bit, that there's more reflectors than there used to be. And so,
So Allison,
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, Allison, who was here, I think she's still here. She mentioned the other day that she has a son who's a reflector. So it's interesting.
Awesome.
Okay, so manifestors. Oh, someone's trying to get in. Okay. Manifestors, their purpose is to lead change by initiating others into action. So they're the starters of things. Their job is to start something and not necessarily always finish it. Their strategy is to inform those who may be impacted by their decisions before acting. So the manifestor energy, and I've described this before, is they have this internal nonverbal flow, and it is very nonverbal. It's like when they feel like they're supposed to do something, they just act without thinking, because it's very like physical almost. It's like they just move. And it's this energy that you can't really like stop, so to speak. And so it's important to inform beforehand, because people in your life can feel like left behind, or they can feel like you don't care about their opinion. I don't know if you have any other thoughts there, Holly. She has a manifestor son, so
yeah, that's exactly what it is. So when it's so nonverbal, and you have to literally teach them to communicate it, because what will happen, the energy is it just goes. And so it's very jarring for their energy to stop and communicate. So if you see a manifester, like my son, when I know he's coming down for something, well, we're in our RV, so it's like 5 feet. I can see in his mind he's got something going. And I know that it's going to be really jarring for him if he's heading out the door to stop him and be like, what's going on? But to some degree, as mom, I need to be like, okay, where are you going? What are you doing? Because any of you who have manifestor kids, they're your kid who will just disappear and go do something and forget to tell you.
You will have no idea where they're at and you will be freaking out.
And so this goes both ways. If they're not informing first and they get stopped, they get angry because their energy has been shut down or stopped.
It's like a
And
fire hose. And if you have to
Yeah.
stop the fire hose, it has to leak out somewhere. And so it comes out as like anger.
Yeah. And then as a mom, I might experience anger as well because I have no clue where my kid is. They didn't inform me.
Yep.
Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. And so it's important, like they need to be informed and they also need to inform. So what's interesting about most of these is that it goes both ways. The people in their life need to do the same as they need to do in order for there to be good flow in their relationship. So they will experience it's like, so one way I like to describe it is like, if a manifestor is moving and there's like something in the doorway that they have to trip over, then they're going to get really mad. Or it's going to like feel like this, it's just like this well of like, why is something in my way? It's stopping me. And what happens is when their energy gets interrupted, it also stops the flow or can stop it. And then when they go back to go do what they were doing, it can feel like they lost that momentum. And so it can bring in some frustration or mostly anger there. But when they are in alignment, when they can inform and when they're able to then carry out what they're trying to create, then they feel peace. And so that's their in alignment theme. And so there's kind of an indicator to know when you're out of alignment and when you are in alignment. So for a manifestor, they're going to feel anger if they're out of alignment, and people in their life around them might feel anger. When they're in alignment, they will feel peace and other people around them will feel peace. So their role is to initiate action from their ideas, because they have this massive like pool of ideas constantly coming in. And so then it's for them, they have this like internal flow, and then they like choose to create. And so it's like putting a car in gear almost. And then they need to inform first, and then they can get moving and they can get stuff done without getting interrupted. And so they're supposed to initiate action from their ideas and from their own inner creative flow. And one cool thing about manifestors is the way Karen describes it is she says that they have a direct connection to like God. And so they're kind of receiving a lot of their inspiration. Like they are inspired, like a lot of the time, wouldn't you say, Holly? They receive that. They receive lots of inspiration or lots of ideas on things that they can put into action or create.
Yeah. And just their energy itself. Like,
yeah,
my manifestor kid is designed to be able to just get an idea to go to the park and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how it works. It's just in the aura. It's in the energy.
Yeah,
but if another kid was to do that, that's just not how it's designed for them. They have a different flow. And she does say that it is important for them to have a connection to source or to deity or, to whatever their belief is, to kind of get that. They're designed to be able to just run with their ideas, but to some degree, they can filter, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
It's not that all of their ideas work out great.
No, but they just have lots of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Absolutely. They get lots of inspiration. Yeah. So challenges of a manifestor, there can be a, what do they call it again? A motorized manifestor. Is that how they say it?
Yeah. So a manifestor mechanically has a motor to the throat, mm-hmm. but it is not a sacral.
That's right. Okay. So then it's a projector that can be a motorized projector or not motorized, right? That's the difference. Because like there's some projectors that have a so like I have a
they can
pregnancy.
have a defined throat,
Yeah.
but it's not typically motorized because that would mechanically make them a manifester.
Yeah. So when they're a projector though, if they're a motorized projector, they won't have a defined throat, right? That's how I think, I feel like I'm getting that. I might be
Oh,
getting that
yeah.
confused.
So they can have energy centers. I totally missed you on that one. They can have an energy center defined, not a sacral, but they can have one of the
Yeah.
other ones defined, but it won't go to the throat. Sorry, I totally
There we go. Yeah.
misunderstood.
So what makes a manifester is they have a motor to the throat.
Yes.
So but they don't necessarily have as much energy as like a generator or manifesting generator. So they
Although it
work.
can look like they
Yeah.
have a ton, it can look like they're ADD.
Yeah. Because they have more open centers. And so they take in other people's energy. So working regular 9 to 5 hours can be difficult and unnatural for the manifestors. So as a manifestor, you need to be very conscious about structuring your business around your energy because you don't have sustainable work energy. So the way I kind of see it, and you can tune in here if you want to, Holly, is like, it's like the manifestor like puts that idea into action and then they invite others in. And then when they invite others in, they kind of get the energy that they need for that project from other people, like the generators that they invite in to kind of create that work
Yeah.
flow.
And when a manifestor is aligned, they'll understand that's how it works. So really great manifestors delegate.
Yes, delegate is the word I was
Or
looking for.
they temporarily
Step
borrow
away.
someone else's sustainable energy. Like I know my manifestor kid, I can't send him to go do a lot of chores on his own.
Yeah,
His
because
energy is
they'll
going to
lose
burn
it.
out real
Yeah.
fast.
Yep. Yep. So manifestors have that internal nonverbal creative flow. And when you're a manifestor, it's easy to lose your patience with other people who are simply not hardwired the same way as you. Most people are not hardwired to just act. They have to think things out and they have to get that sacral response and all that kind of stuff. So manifestors they show up a lot different than the other types. So there can be that kind of disconnect sometimes because it's like, well, why don't you operate like me? Or why don't you operate like me? And so that's where the informing becomes really important. So finding the words for the creative flow slows you down and it feels unnatural. That's why we talk about it's like that internal non-verbal flow. And so when you inform, it's not that you need to ask other people's permission. It's just that you're telling them so that you don't create anger later. It helps other people to feel included and feel like you care about, including them in your life. So when you feel like you have to stop and explain or are being interrupted, that flow of energy gets interrupted and it comes out as anger, which we've already kind of talked about. It's not that you want to get angry at the people around you. It's just, it literally can feel almost involuntary for a manifestor when they get interrupted. Like they will just kind of like explode a little bit. And it's not that they want to, it's just, it's that energy that's being stopped. And so I see it almost like stopping a bomb or something. I don't know. It's like,
it's
or
like a vibrational opposite.
Yes.
Almost.
Yeah.
Because each type is going to have a specific, not self-emotional theme. And the opposites, like it makes sense, like the anger versus peace.
Yes.
But it's like the energy flow, it's how I'm kind of observing it is, it's not that they choose anger, it's just that that's the natural response to this shutdown of inertia.
Yes. Thank you for describing that better. So informing people is what helps you to avoid that. So if you care about the people in your life and you want to respect them and you want to avoid a lot of frustration of like people getting angry at you for just acting, then just learning to inform is like, it's not easy for a manifestor, but if they can put it into action and they can start, applying it in their life and choosing into informing, it will make their life so much easier. So another challenge for a manifestor is finishing things. Our society kind of teaches like, if you're responsible, you finish things, and so for a manifestor can feel a lot of guilt and shame around that if they have people around them who maybe are judging them. So there's that possible judgment from others about not finishing things. And so would you say, I feel like manifestors can finish things. It's just, they have to make sure they take breaks and they need to not it's not this like sustainable, they need to walk away and then come back and then walk away and then come back.
Yeah, it's not a straight up across the board thing
Yeah.
of like they can never finish anything.
Yeah.
But if it does require a lot of energy, like if they start a house, build it on their own, they're probably going to have to get some other people to help them or hire a contractor, because that manifester, I mean, we can get into the nitty gritties of the different variables here, but you know, they'd have to temporarily borrow someone else's energy. So you got to have a generator or a manifesting generator by their side to keep them going. But long term, there's potential burnout there.
Yes. And so
So
manifestors can experience burnout.
yeah.
And so it's important to just know that about yourself. And also, as far as like building businesses, another thing that is helpful for a manifestor is to possibly do something where you can create some residual income, because you need to be able to not have those 9 to 5 hours. It's harder for a manifestor to just go to a 9 to 5 job. They tend to be entrepreneurs and they tend to be like their own bosses and in charge of themselves, because it's just it's really not, they're not structured. They're not made to work those 9 to 5 like a generator or manifesting generator. Okay, so generators. So generators make up 35% of the population. Their purpose is to build through their work and their family. They are the creators, they're the doers of the world. They build things. My husband's a generator, so he builds houses for a living. No surprise there. Their strategy is to wait to respond and then act. So they just need to wait to respond to something in their outside world. It doesn't necessarily look like them having to wait forever. They just need something to respond to. So for a generator, if you ask them, would you say, I don't know if I would call it, like sometimes I guess it looks like inviting, but they just need something outside of them. So like, for instance, they get an idea and they go, oh, that might be fun. And then they go, okay, I'll wait for something in my outside world. And then maybe they see like a billboard, or somebody sends them an email, or they see something on Facebook, or maybe somebody, like for me, I had this experience. I'm a manifesting generator. So manifesting generators are generator types. They have to wait to respond as well. When I first started teaching classes, I had a friend who messaged me one day and she's like, hey, have you ever thought about teaching a class? That's something in my outside world that's coming to me. And it's kind of like an invite. And I go, let me check in with my sacral. And I didn't know this at the time. But at the time, I was able to feel into it and go, oh, yeah, that feels great. That feels like something I'm supposed to do.
To push his buttons again, and he's supposed to be acting safe, and that ain't happening. Well, hopefully it will happen, but
somebody's, hold on one sec. Oh, did I mute you, Holly? I don't know if I did. Okay. Somebody accidentally got unmuted. Sorry, guys. Oh. So having something in their outside world to respond to means they can check in with that internal, whether it's, either generators and manifesting generators, they all have that sacral response. But then so for someone like me, I have that emotional authority as well. So that's kind of like an added thing on top of it. So hold on one sec. My computer's going to die. I better plug it in. All right, guys, that would be bad. Okay. So just wait for a generator, wait to respond. And then once their sacral says yes, they can act. So it's that simple. Their out of alignment theme is frustration. So when they try to force things, or they try to act before waiting to respond to something, then they're going to experience frustration. They're going to experience a lot of resistance. And so when they are acting from their strategy and authority, when they're listening to that sacral response, they'll experience satisfaction. And it'll be like, oh, I responded to this thing in my outside world. I was able to go and build and do, and oh, now I'm going to step back and look at that thing I created. And doesn't that feel good? I can feel that satisfaction. Their wealth theme is mastery over time. So generators have a stair-step learning curve. And so what that kind of looks like, and feel free to butt in here, Holly, if I describe this wrong, but they experience plateaus. And then while they're on those plateaus, they tend to feel frustrated because they feel like nothing is happening. And so for generators, their plateau is a little bit longer than a manifesting generator. well, Holly and I were kind of discussing this beforehand. We have theories about this, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can talk about it in the next slide, or in the manifesting generator slides. But so for a generator, they experience it's like that plateau, and then they can often want to quit when they're in that frustrating plateau. And so sometimes they can be known for quitting. And so it's important for them to wait out that frustration. And then it's like they learn or they master something and they take a step up and then they hit another plateau. And so their wealth theme is mastery over time. That means checking with your sacral if you feel like you want to quit. If your sacral says no, you need to stick it out, then what that does is it allows you to then kind of like level up, so to speak. And then you're creating mastery over time because you're sticking with someone or with something, and you're kind of learning as you go and you're pushing through that frustration. And oftentimes for a generator, that frustration actually indicates that they're on the verge of a breakthrough or a step up in mastery. And so their role is to do the work of the world and to find mastery in their work. And their work literally is their gift to the world, which is, I don't know, I just love that. I think it's pretty cool. So challenges of a generator. Most generators have been taught to just bypass their own inner wisdom and to adopt a just do it attitude about things. So people are like, just make a decision, just do it. Just, put your nose to the grind and work. And so they kind of suppress that sacral response, and they learn to like, yes, no, make decisions from the head. And so generators may find it difficult to refrain from the just doing because it requires ignoring that old programming and old ideas about what hard work looks like, what success looks like, how to make money. And it can feel scary or irresponsible to just follow your gut and forego the programming of the mind or the conditioning of people outside of you. And so for a generator who's kind of working on listening to their strategy and authority, they need to start getting used to listening to that sacral response and just checking in with the sacral before they make decisions or respond to things outside of them. So because generators are energy beings, they have the energy to work. They have lots of energy. They have that defined sacral. And so they have energy to do jobs they hate. So I have a theory about this. I'll just share it. It's kind of fun. I noticed this recently. If anybody's noticed, we kind of have a caffeine addicted society. And I feel like that comes from the fact that a lot of people force themselves to do jobs they hate, or they do jobs because they think they need to make the money and they don't necessarily love the thing that they're doing. And so when a generator is not doing something that they love, they will have about half the energy that they normally do. Now they'll still have energy to go to work and get things done, but their energy is going to be way less than it would if they're doing something that they love. And if they're responding to something and their authority says, yes, go do this. And when a generator waits for something to respond to, and then they listen to that sacral and they get that yes, and they put it into action, they're going to have like unlimited amounts of energy. In fact, they're going to struggle to want to go to sleep. They're going to want to work all the time because they're just so excited about what they're doing. And so my theory is that the reason our society is so caffeine addicted is because they're doing things they don't love. And so they need that, they have that 3 o'clock, like, oh, I'm losing my steam, and they got to get a jolt of caffeine to get through their day. So
can I add to that?
Yes, please.
So it kind of goes a little bit more than the surface here. I agree. So they're either trying to behave like a generator, and they're a projector or a reflector or a manifestor. So they're treating themselves totally inappropriately according to their energy. Or they're a generator or manifesting generator, and they're not in the right work.
Yep.
Now we have to bridge the gap between this pays the bills and I'm not quite the job that I love, that fuels me. So there's that aspect. But then there's also the other aspect of a generator and a manifesting generator. If you have any of these types as kids, or if you are this type and you deal with insomnia, I say we because I'm a manifesting generator too. We're built to use off that consistent, sustainable energy.
Yes.
And so generators and manifesting generators, if they're not utilizing their physical bodies to be active, they will go to sleep wired. They'll go into their bed wired, and they won't be able to go to sleep. So they have to actually go to bed just totally tired and then they'll start sleeping well.
Yes.
If they don't, they won't sleep well. And then it's a vicious cycle, if that makes sense. Totally a tangent, but
yeah, I have 3 manifesting generator children. And if I don't get them out of the house and I don't get them doing things and I don't like wear them out, oh my gosh, they will not want to go to bed till like 11 o'clock midnight. And I'm like, want to shoot myself because I'm like, you guys are wired and it's like midnight. What the heck? Go to bed. And I get really frustrated. So yes, It's important to make sure they have something. So for like a kid, that might look like doing a sport that they love or participating in something or getting like out and doing physical activity. But for a generator, so a generator that's not doing something that they love, they can, burnout will eventually ensue. It happens. It happens later in life. Usually it's around, what did they say, like 50 or something, Holly?
Yeah, because it's going to take a while for a generator to burn out. I mean, they've got that defined sacral. It's the most powerful energy center in the body graph. Or they can get sick. It will eventually happen. It'll happen later.
It'll take a little bit longer, but it'll happen.
Burnout can really essentially happen for any of the types. It's just how you get to burnout is going to be a little bit different.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So resisting initiating things depending on your conditioning. So kind of like I talked about in the first bullet point there, but for a generator, a challenge is like they need to resist. They might get an idea and they might go, oh, I just want to initiate this, but they need to wait for something outside of them so that then they can respond to that. Otherwise, they're just going to get all that resistance. They're going to try to force something that might not be the right thing. And so they'll just, it'll be lots of frustration. So, and then, like I said, I talked about that stair-step learning curve. So it's just that like plateaus, level up, or like gaining mastery, plateau again. And so it's important to know that like frustration is a little bit of the theme of a generator. Like they're going to experience it. They can't really avoid it, but they can have less and less of it if they're following their strategy and authority. Wouldn't you say, Holly? Like they can't necessarily avoid it altogether.
I don't think that the emotional themes can be avoided by any of the types. It's just kind of something they experience. So we don't want you to have it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm off track. No, it's okay. It's just that when it's a consistent part of your life or it is felt in a big way, that's when you're kind of got to take a step back and say, okay, have I been following my strategy and listening to my inner authority here?
Yeah. And so like I said before, for the generator, they're going to feel that frustration when they're on a plateau because they want to just keep moving forward. But one thing I've noticed for me personally is like when I'm feeling frustration, I go, okay, now is there something I need to learn here? Do I need to like start looking outside me for something? So maybe there's a book that shows up in my outside world, or maybe there's like I don't know, human design or something, like, right?
It's typically a sign that they need something new to respond to. And that can look like having a trusted friend ask them questions.
Yes. Yeah.
And one way that you can
sacral session.
Yeah. One way that you can support your generator or manifesting generator friends and loved ones is you can kind of see that they're getting that itch to quit something or to move on to something else, and just ask them questions.
Yes. It's very helpful. And they need to be like yes or no questions, right, Holly? Because so open-ended questions would be for a projector. And do you ask questions to a manifestor? They don't really need questions, do they?
It's such an odd experience with, you can ask them questions. They may not even have the words for it.
Like, they're going to be like, I don't know.
and that is often a thing. They might not know. They might have to just do. Yeah.
They need to like physically like step into something and go, oh, this is right. Oh, this isn't right. Kind of a thing.
A projector and a reflector, they're going to need to have this conversation go on that's open-ended.
Yes. Lots of talking. Okay. So manifesting generator, their purpose is the same as a generator, to build through work and family. They create, they're the doers of the world. They're like a hybrid of a manifestor and a generator. So they kind of experience both of the like themes of those types. And the way I kind of see it is it's like they're a generator first, and then they're a manifestor next. So it's kind of like they need to wait to respond like a generator. And then once they find something to respond to, they check in with that sacral and their authority. And then they have 2 extra steps where they need to then like picture it happening in their world. And then they need to inform, and then they can act. So they have some extra work there. And they experience the same energy of like a manifestor, where if they get interrupted or if they feel like they have to stop, they have that same flow of energy. And so it can be very frustrating. So their in alignment theme is going to be satisfaction and peace. So they're going to experience the same alignment theme as the manifestor and as the generator. And then their not self theme is going to be frustration. And I forgot to put and anger. They do experience anger too and getting interrupted. So, and their wealth theme is the same. It's mastery over time. Now, manifesting generators, once they find something to respond to and they picture it and they inform, they can initiate to some degree, right? Holly, how would you describe that?
Yeah. It's different. We still don't classify it as initiating, but it's the act of mechanically in the chart. If you have a motor coming to the throat, you can initiate to some degree. You can initiate, well, I'm not going to say that types can't initiate conversations, but to some degree you can. So like between Holly and I, one of us had to like start something, you know, but if you look at the big picture, it's a trickle down effect. Yeah. The manifestors are starting a bunch of things, and then we are all subsequently responding or being invited to something else, if that makes sense. I probably totally didn't answer your question.
No,
but you can to some degree initiate.
Yeah. So maybe tell me if this is wrong or not. This is the way I kind of see it, is like when you have something to respond to and then you like put it into action, it's almost like you can then like, because you've waited to respond and you've informed, it's like you can then go out and start creating, and you kind of pull other people in that kind of like, oh, would you like to join me kind of energy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even some of the other types, well, remind me to get to this when it comes to projectors.
Okay.
I'll save it for that.
I think they're next. So,
okay.
But challenges of a manifesting generator. So waiting to respond can feel really hard for a manifesting generator, harder than it would be for a generator, I would say. And they often will try to force or seek out or want to initiate because they have that manifesting kind of energy in them. And so it's important for them to wait. They'll experience lots of frustration if they don't. They definitely need to inform others, just like a manifestor would. Same rules apply there. They will probably, in my experience, want to quit maybe even faster than a generator would, because they don't have as much patience. Would you say, Holly?
No.
So they don't like being told they need to stop or do multiple things is really frustrating to them. So they're natural multitaskers, and they often are like have lots of, we were talking about this, have lots of balls like in the air at one time. And they need to be doing many things. Like they're designed to do many things at one time, which I think is sometimes frustrating for the people around them, because they're like, why don't you just like focus on one thing? And they're not really designed to do that. And so they also, I didn't put this here, but they also skip steps, or yeah, I guess we put that here. So they skip steps. And so the challenge that they might experience is sometimes they will skip steps in doing things, and then they need to go back and learn things. So like, I'm literally experiencing this right now with like human design, because I keep feeling like I'm supposed to like skip steps and put it out there in the world and like teach other people, but I don't necessarily know everything right now, you know? And so it's a little bit disconcerting, because now like there's things where people ask me questions and I'm like, oh, I don't know that. So now I got to go back and I got to learn that thing, so then I can come back and share that with them. And so we tend to skip steps, and we do that because we're kind of designed to like see the big picture and then take out the steps that don't necessarily need to be in there to get to the end results. Is that how you would describe it, Holly?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it. It's just that we sometimes accidentally take out the steps that we need still.
Yes.
And it's part of that process of, and here's the thing, if you are a manifesting generator, you can be meticulous You can think that you have covered everything, and it doesn't matter how hard you try, you will still skip steps.
Yep.
So as long as you know that that's a thing, so that you cannot judge yourself, because you're designed to make things more efficient.
Yes. Move faster,
so just
quicker.
Try not to have that judgment there.
Yeah. So it's just important to go, oh, later on when I found out I missed a step, now I can choose to go back and learn that so that I can create more mastery in my life.
And here's where, and we kind of chatted about this before, I learned this the hard way. Letting people know that this is how it works for you. I'm going to skip steps. No matter how hard I try, I'm going to make some mistakes. Letting people know to expect that can also minimize some of that anger and frustration from other people.
Yeah. And when you put like generators and manifesting generators together, it will look like the manifestors kind of like going out ahead of the generator. And to some degree they are, but the generator at some point will catch up to the manifesting generator because they don't skip steps.
Yeah. And we liken it to like the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So they have the same stair-step learning curve, but it seems to be a shorter cycle, either that or they're like have so many things going at one time. It's like they bounce back and forth between those things. And so they don't notice that stair-step as much. We're still kind of filling that one out. We were talking about that too beforehand. We're like, I don't know if it's just that we go back and forth between these things. I know when I feel frustration and I feel like something's not happening and with like one of the things I'm doing, then I tend to go, okay, I need to go find success somewhere else because I'm really frustrated that nothing's happening over here. And I tend to bounce around quite a bit, which I know
I concur.
Yeah, I think can be disconcerting for other people. Like in general, you know, I would say I call myself an energy worker, but I'm always like learning new things and I'm excited. And like a lot of my chart tells me that I need to share. Like my job is to share. Like, and when Holly, it's really interesting because Holly did my mission and purpose thing, and we had a session, what would you say, it was about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, I can't remember. And we determined that my mission was to liberate the captive by educating. And so it was really crazy because I was like, oh yeah, educating, yes, that I love sharing, I love teaching, I love experiencing because I'm a 3, and then I love going out and sharing that with the world. And so for me, it's been this like, I do skip those steps, but I don't care because I just feel like I'm supposed to put it out there because I feel like people need to know about things. And so that's been really helpful for me to know and understand. And because I beat myself up about that over and over and over and over again for skipping steps or for bouncing around and for not sticking to one thing. But that's just how I operate. That's how all manifesting generators operate. Did you want to say something?
No, I agree. I concur because we've taken this conditioning from society, because then everyone's going to experience the conditioning differently, right? It's, oh, it might be you need to get it right, you need to get it perfect, you need to not skip steps. And it's like some types are designed to be meticulous, to get it right, to get it perfect, to hone it in, and other types are supposed to do the exact opposite. And so again, this is where we can use human design to say, Holly, this is how it works for you. Don't judge it, embrace it.
Yes.
And for me, this is how it works for me, and don't judge it, embrace it. And they're totally different.
Yeah. And so one thing manifesting generators can do is they can get to a point where they have too many balls and then they start dropping them. And they'll forget things. I was telling Holly before we started, I was like, sometimes I worry a lot about that I'm forgetting something because I feel like I'm juggling so many things at one time. And I eventually do. I do drop the ball. And that's it. I used to get so embarrassed and feel so ashamed about the fact that I forgot something or I messed up, or like, there was a point where I was like, kept forgetting that I had, sessions. And so like one thing I had to learn as a manifesting generator is to find things that could help me to kind of keep track of all those balls. So like scheduling systems and like stuff like that have really made my life a lot easier so that I don't have to worry that I'm forgetting or missing something. Or thank God, whoever invented iCal, like I love you forever. And yeah. So, okay. So on to projectors.
Yay.
Okay, their life purpose is to manage, guide, and direct others. So they are like the director of the play, and they need to wait to be invited. That's her strategy. And so for a projector, this can be kind of frustrating because it feels like there's a lot of waiting, but they also don't have a motor. And so they need to, unless they're, okay, I take that back.
They don't have it to the throat.
Yes, they don't have a motor to the throat. So there can be projectors that have no motors at all. And then there can be what's called a motorized projector. And so the difference there is that a motorized projector has the energy to do things like maybe like work out or do things for themselves or whatever, but they don't have sustainable energy. It's cyclical. It up and down, and so they're designed to take lots of breaks. They need to wait to be invited. And when they do wait to be invited and other people invite them, then is when they get that kind of like boost of energy. And they also, like a manifestor, will take in energy from generators and people around them who have motors, because that's how they're designed. They're designed to do that. And if they live with a generator of some type, they can show up like a generator. And this is where they have to be careful and they have to know when to quit. That's their challenge, is like, do I know when enough is enough? Because they can tend to show up like, in fact, wouldn't you say, Holly, they can tend to show up like I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, like almost like over like 80.
Yeah, absolutely.
A real quick example.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking about it. But I had gone through and ran all the types on all my children. I have 9 children. I have 4 generators, 4 manifesting generators, and 1 projector. And what you just said just put a huge aha in my brain. My projector, one of the things today, the missionaries came over to dinner and they asked what he liked to do. And he talked about how to serve others. He likes to help them and direct them to do the right thing.
Ooh, yeah.
And I'm like, and so what you just said, all of a sudden just opened up my brain. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why he said that.
Yeah.
This was really weird to me, the way he said it. I didn't correct him. I didn't anything.
That's so cool.
But then the missionaries asked him about, well, how do they feel about that? He said, well, they don't always listen too well.
Yeah.
So
because he lived with generators and 4 manifesting generators. And so he can get himself in trouble sometimes.
Yes.
So I forgot to add this verbiage in here. Not just invited, but sometimes the verbiage recognized is helpful too. Yeah. So sometimes this verbiage is really challenging for people. And so the way that we kind of share it is, when someone recognizes the wisdom, the gifts, the talents, the knowledge, then it will be received well. And once that thing is recognized, it doesn't have to be every single time. So if a projector gets recognized for their gifts, their talents, their wisdom in a job, they can then behave accordingly, if that makes sense. But if the wisdom or the vision or whatever is not recognized or invited, it's not usually received well.
Yeah. And they can feel like they want to kind of like, I see it. It's almost like they can see all the people around them and they go, oh, I know something that would help them show up better. I know something that would help this struggle that they're having. I know, I have this piece of wisdom that I could share with you, and people don't always want to hear that. And so the challenge for a projector is they have to either wait to be invited to share their wisdom, or they need to say, if they feel like they really got to say something, they need to say, hey, I have something that I think would be helpful to you. Would you like to hear it? And so they need to ask if the person would like to receive what they have to share. Otherwise, they're going to be met with a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Resistance. It's going to feel like hitting a brick wall. It's going to feel like people don't hear you. They don't want to listen to you. I feel like there's a lot of like this self-questioning or self-doubt that kind of comes in for a projector when they experience that, because it's like, wow, I feel like I have something really important to share, but nobody wants to hear it. What's like, why don't they want to hear it? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not, I don't have something important to share. And so, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's okay. Go ahead.
So the difference here is projectors, they're going to have a hard time knowing themselves, but they're here to know other people.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the aura of the manifestor, it being a bit like repelling, and it's because it kind of creates the parting of a sea. That's like, let me go and do. And the projector's aura is focused. It like hones in on that one person. they're not here for the masses. They're here for their people. And so it also filters out, who are my people? When they're listening to their strategy, they're following their strategy and listening to their inner authority. They're waiting for that recognition and to be invited. They're saving their precious energy for the people who are going to listen to them.
Yeah, who appreciate.
And I can't remember if we put it.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we put it in the generators and the manifesting generators. Their aura is like enveloping.
Mm-hmm. And the projector is like,
it's focused.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. It just like goes right in for that one person. Mm-hmm. And one other thing that, so it's kind of a Holly theory. It can feel invasive. So I have a projector daughter, and it can feel very invasive if her guidance or her directing is not invited.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing for a projector to kind of take into account. If they're sharing things and they're not following the strategy, it can feel really just like invasive.
Yeah. So my oldest, yeah. Oh, no, go ahead. I was just going to say, my oldest is a projector. And one thing I've noticed is that when he was a little bit younger, he'd interact with my husband, who's a generator, who has a defined head, by the way. So he kind of shows up more authoritative. And they would often get in it with each other. And my son, who's a projector, he struggles with feeling like his dad's, I will just say it, like his dad's kind of a hypocrite, because he's like, my dad tells me one thing and then he does another, and and so he'll call his dad out on it, and his dad doesn't respond well to that. And so it's been this thing where I've noticed that he's kind of shut that down in himself, because he's like, but wait, you know, he's trying to like be that projector, and sometimes people don't respond to that very well. And so I feel like for a projector, they can have a lot of conditioning, especially because they have lots of open spaces usually too. And so that's just, I don't know why I just felt to share that, but then they experience that bitterness theme, because they're like, nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody hears me. Everybody, like it feels this kind of like this alone kind of a feeling. And it turns into bitterness for sure. And especially if they're like trying to force invitations, it's important. And so you'll often hear projectors go, well, how do I get an invitation? There's two ways for them to get an invitation. And that's for them to know their worth and value, and to make sure that they have enough energy when other people invite them. So if they focus their energy on places that they shouldn't be, meaning they're trying to direct people who aren't wanting to hear, or they're trying to, you know, share stuff where they're not supposed to, then they use their energy up. And then when they actually do get invitations, they don't have the energy to respond. And so it's important for a projector to use their strategy. It's super important, because if they don't have enough energy when someone invites them, then they won't be able to actually do the things that they are like something they're actually supposed to respond to or step into, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Can I not tangent, but can I add something here?
Yeah.
We were talking about the energy of a projector as a child. So we're going to look at the manifestor type, the projector type, and the reflector type. They can look like they have a ton of energy. Mm-hmm. So if you get those types around a bunch of sacral energy, because they have the open sacral, they're taking in everybody else's energy in an amplified way. So my manifestor kid and my projector kid, they're like bouncing off the walls. And over time, I'll be like, okay, we need an aura break. We need an aura timeout. And so we'll send them in different places so that they can kind of like discharge that extra energy. So while I know that it looks like those kids have tons of energy, I'm careful to not make them do a ton of things. So and that can be a form of conditioning for that individual. They'll say, well, in my teens and my 20s and even my 30s, I had like so much energy. Now, why do I all of a sudden don't have this energy? Mm-hmm. And it can be really, really hard for those types. And they can judge themselves, and they can think that there's something really wrong with themselves. And there's really not.
Yeah. My sister's actually a projector, and I think she's experiencing this right now. And I was trying to explain it to her the other day, is because when I was telling her about what a projector does, and I said, they're not here to work like everyone else. And she's like, but I love working. And everybody in my family is generators and manifesting generators, but she's a projector. And so I think she like grew up, like I said, in this space where it was like, we work and we work hard. And I can remember, it's so funny. I can remember as a kid when my dad would send us to do chores, my sister was the person who always tried to get out of doing the chores. And it's funny because my husband still comments on that. He's like, your dad would make you guys do things and your sister would always get out of it. And now I realize why. It's like, she was a projector and she didn't have the same energy as all of us kids. And so I think she was instinctually just living that out, and we didn't know that. And I think it's important to know that about your kids. And now that I know my oldest son's a projector, like I don't force him to do things when I can see he doesn't have the energy to do it. And that's important.
And even as adults, every projector I tell as an adult, I say, factor in a nap.
Yes.
If you don't actually fall asleep, please lay horizontally and just try to have quiet time or something.
Yeah. So for the projector, when they lay flat, it dispels or discharges that energy they've been storing in their sacral. So one thing about like having an undefined sacral means literally everybody else's energy comes in and then they look like a generator. And so they have to dispel that energy. And so they need to go to bed before they're tired, and they need to lay flat to dispel that energy so that they can get good sleep.
And ideally not next to someone with.
Yes. They ideally, they really do need to sleep alone. In fact, it was really interesting. I have a really good friend who I just shared with her chart the other day. And I was telling her, you're a projector, and she's a motorized projector. She does have a defined root, but I was explaining to her how they need to sleep alone. And she like freaked out. She was like, oh my gosh, I felt this my whole life and I didn't understand why. And her roommate's a manifesting generator. And she's like, we went somewhere and we were in a hotel room and I was laying next to her. And she's like, I literally couldn't sleep the whole night because I'm laying next to her and I'm like wired. And I couldn't understand why, because normally when I'm sleeping alone, I can go to bed and I can go to sleep and I can get some good sleep. And she talked about how like with her boyfriend that she literally, like when he stays over, she's like wants him to go home so she could get some sleep. And she said just for her, just that realization was like huge. It like totally changed her life because she could stop feeling guilty about wanting to sleep alone and be alone and needing time to rest by herself.
And that's potentially something that can be really problem causing if you're in a marriage.
Yes,
and,
it can.
You know, if you don't know this, it can be taken really personal.
Mm-hmm. This is another reason why human design is so wonderful, because it helps you to understand why you operate the way that you do. So the challenges of a projector, they need the patience to wait for an invitation. And so sometimes they can get frustrated, and they just need to have that patience and work on, building up their energy source so they're ready when they get an invitation. Their energy, they need to be aware of when to take breaks, especially if they're around other generators or manifesting generators. They're going to show up like a generator. And so they need to just plan that in their day. Oh, I plan every day. I'm going to take a nap at this time or whatever, or I'm going to step outside of everyone else's energy in my home. And I'm going to spend a half an hour by myself to just dispel some of this energy. So Colette says, would that be why my projector son usually goes to bed before everyone else? Absolutely. My son is the same way. I don't need to tell him to go to bed. He literally goes to bed on his own. And I love that about him. And it's because he needs to be able to have that time alone. So, and for kids who are projectors, it's really important, if possible, for them to have their own bed at least, and possibly their own room, because they need to be able to step out of other people's energy. So they can experience burnout more easily, especially if they're not paying attention to the fact that they're taking in other people's energy and they're showing up like a generator. Yeah, he says he also gets up before everyone else. Yeah, my son as well, he can get up and go to seminary, no problem. But my manifesting generator son's like, heck no. It's like pulling teeth to get him up in the morning. It's really interesting. So they just need to know how they operate so that they can avoid burnout. Super important for them to take a break and get out of other people's energy. They need to structure their business in a way that allows for significant cycles of rest and restoration. So they're not necessarily designed to work 9 to 5s. I mean, they can, because they will get in other people's energy if they're working like in a group setting, but if they're an entrepreneur and they're in charge of themselves, they just need to have those cycles of rest and not feel guilty about getting that rest. And they need to be restorative cycles of rest. So that doesn't mean lay down and worry for a half an hour and feel guilty that you should be doing something else. You literally need to take that cycle of rest and actually have it be restful. So it's important for projectors can sometimes struggle with self-worth. And so for them, like one of their huge jobs is to really know their worth and value and make sure that if they're struggling with that, they need to work on that, because that's going to put them in a space where then people are also, so it's kind of like what you, as within, so without, right? If you don't feel like you're worthy and valuable, then people outside of you won't feel like you're worthy and valuable, and they won't invite you. But when you know your worth and value, the projector has this kind of like magnetic field that just pulls people in, and invitations will fall out of their mouth without them really knowing that's what they're doing. And so if you know that and you stand in your worth, then other people are going to see that, and then they'll just naturally invite you. So when you're struggling with getting invitations, work on your self-worth. That's a little tip there. So they have a deep need for recognition or to be seen, and for people to go, oh, wow, like that was so helpful what you shared with me. Or like the way Holly described it earlier, the recognition is almost like a part of like them acting in a way. So Lindsay says, this is making a lot of sense with why I get so burned out with my kids on a daily basis and when I don't get any breaks. Yes. So a projector as a parent, they can really struggle. They may need outside help. They may need someone to come in and like do, like they may need a house cleaner, or they may need, you know, a nanny, or I don't know, whatever helps you to be able to take those breaks, because you will, they don't have as much energy as like a generator parent who can just go and go and go with their kids. So even just if you can step away from your kids for 30 minutes and just get some rest, that will kind of fill up your energy bank again, that would be really helpful for you. Have anything you want to add there, Holly?
No, you're spot on. Especially because if you have generator children, I liken it to being on borrowed energy.
Yep.
You can only do it for so long.
Yep. So they need to learn to leverage their knowledge. I love how Karen describes it. She says, in a perfect world, we'd put all our projectors on purple pillows and just look to them like the Buddhas that they are. And it's true. They really just are. They have, they're very knowledgeable and wise, and like their job is to show us where we can be more effective. And so they need to learn to leverage that knowledge and use it in a way. And they can, they need to also, like if they're, I guess I don't need to share that. Never mind. But so they just need to know, like they need to know that what they have to offer is valuable and leverage that. That's what they're here for. So the challenge is they can struggle with bitterness if they feel like they're not getting the invitations they want, if they feel like they're having to do a lot of waiting. So just, if you want to avoid that bitterness, then just make sure, again, work on your self-worth and make sure you have lots of energy and you're not burning yourself out all the time. One interesting thing about the projector aura is that when they are burnt out, it's almost like putting out a signal out into the world, like, don't invite me because I don't have the energy to help you anyways. And so if you make sure you are taking care of yourself and you're getting the rest that you need, you're going to get more invitations. So the one last thing about a projector is their sexuality can be variable because they don't have that defined sacral, and they can be influenced by their partner. This is not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but sometimes if they have a partner who has a higher sex drive, then they can tend to just go with what their partner has. And so they can risk a hypersexualized experience or extremes when it comes to that. And so it's important to just know that. Would you want to add anything here, Holly? I was trying to think of a good way to describe this, but they will go with, like, so their sex drive is kind of based on their partner. So they will match the energy.
Yeah, it's mostly just an awareness of, so it's like some of the other open centers, like the open emotional solar plexus. If it's open, the emotions you experience are not always yours. And so it's good to have that awareness of, is this inherently me, or is this a temporary conditioning, I guess they would call it.
Yeah. So it's just something to be aware of. So reflectors, Yay, reflectors, 1% of the population. So reflectors, what were you trying to say there when you put mental, emotional, physical? I'm trying to remember. Oh, they're a barometer, basically. And so they're a barometer for what's going on mentally for people, what's going on emotionally for people, and what's going on physically for people. So they are really aware of what's going on in their community. And my business partner, Aubrey, is a reflector, and it's been really interesting for me to witness like kind of what she experiences. And just like a projector, they can, they take in so much energy because they have so many open spaces. So I guess we should say what makes a reflector is they have no defined or colored in space centers. And so they are literally like wide open. They do have defined gates, and they can even have they don't have defined channels though, right, Holly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
So a defined channel is when two gates meet. So reflectors don't even have that. So they just have defined gates, and they're really, really open. And so they're taking in a lot of energy from the world around them. And that's what makes them that barometer, is because they can gauge like what's going on in the community. And so they will feel it. They experience I would say it's intense. It can be intense at times. And so they can definitely experience burnout more than most types, I would say. And so they have to be really careful. Like, I know the way Aubrey operates is like her and I can get together and we can work on something, and she can use my manifesting generator energy. We can get a lot done. But after about an hour or an hour and a half, she has to step away and take a break, or she will just totally risk burning out. And so it's important to know that about reflectors. If you have a reflector in your life, make sure they get lots of rest. Their strategy is to wait a full lunar cycle. So they need 28 days to make big decisions. And that's because it can be hard for them to determine like what energy is theirs and what energy is coming from their community. And so they need a lot of time to feel into it and go, what does this feel like for me? What does this look like for me? What might this look like happening in my life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so they just need to wait, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but I mean, it's a lot different than any of the other types. So
can I jump in really quick?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
So part of this strategy isn't just the waiting. If you dive deeper, and I don't know if we have any reflectors, but if you have a reflector child, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it, what they actually do is, so they're lunar beings because they're affected by the moon. Yes. And so you can take a right now chart, and we can tell you where to go, and you track. So they want to track the 28 days and say, where is the moon going in my chart? Then you journal, what am I feeling? And so they will have a predictable experience, and then they can start taking apart what is influenced by the moon going through my chart and what is me. So it's kind of a scientific experience where they're kind of like dissecting what's me or not.
And so their chart shows up based on like how the planets cycle. And so for instance, like whatever the transit for that day is showing is the energy they're going to experience for that day. Because they're wide open, then they're basically going to have defined and undefined centers, and it's going to be different every single day based on what the transits are doing. And so they're experiencing lots of different energy, and so they're waiting out through that energy to know what's right for them. What is that how you would describe it, Holly?
Yeah, and primarily the moon is, because all of the different planets, like it's so variable, and but to look at the moon itself and to look what gate is it in each day, they can create that predictable cycle of
and the moon has a predictable 28-day cycle, where the rest of the planets, it's very variable, and so you can't like create like a
you can't create anything reliable on that one.
So they're very affected by the planets and people around them, basically, and that's kind of how their energy will show up. So they make up about 1% of the population, and their not self theme is disappointment. And then their alignment theme is surprise. Would you say where would you describe the disappointment comes from, Holly? I was trying to feel into that one, and
what it feels like is they put their energy into something and it doesn't work, and they're like, this again.
Yes. Yeah.
But when they so their decision-making process is going to be that lunar cycle, but also talking to people that they trust to bounce things off of them and to get to feel how they feel about it. So I've worked with a projector and wanting to come into one of my programs, or not a projector, a reflector. And it took a long time. Mm-hmm. And it was like the person knew that they were going to do it, but then needed to wait through it. And so, how do I want to say it? I don't want to get too deeply into the emotional aspect. So people who have the emotional solar plexus too, they're going to have some emotional waves that they have to go through. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I don't know if we're going to do it tonight.
We're just going to briefly touch on that.
Briefly talk about it.
Quickly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the way it really, if I was to shorten it, it's, if you think about putting your energy into so many things and so many things don't work out, it's like so disappointed. And then the surprise, I kind of felt like it was like winning the lottery kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because for so many of them, just look at percentage wise, look at the ratios. How many things are you going to get right out of a month if you're not following your strategy?
Yeah. And people can want to force reflectors to make decisions. One thing that Aubrey and I have run into is that because I'm a manifesting generator and I move so fast, I can tend to steamroll her, and I have to be really careful because when she gets in my energy, it can feel like a yes for her because it's a yes for me. And then when she steps back, she goes, oh, that's not right. And it's because she was in my energy, she was feeling it. And in that moment, it felt like it. But the second we kind of like disconnected from each other's energy, then she's kind of like back in her own energy and she goes, oh crap. Like, and I feel like the disappointment can come from there a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the wealth theme of the reflector is to associate with those who have prosperity mindset. And it takes time, because it takes time for them to make wise choices when they surround themselves with energy of people who have that prosperity mindset. They're kind of taking that in and they're feeling it, what it feels like, and kind of they're able to apply that to their life in a way because they're feeling that energy over a sustained period of time. And so it's important for them to make wise choices. And then by doing that, they're building a strong financial foundation through making those wise choices and using their strategy to do that.
And prosperity choices in general, like not just a financial foundation, but really it could just be anything because they're so susceptible to conditioning.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So the role of the reflector is reflecting the health and alignment of the people around them. And their job is to kind of step back and go, and they kind of tell you like where you're at, where society is kind of sitting, what that looks like. And they tell you when you're in alignment and when you're not in alignment. And so the challenges of, if I can move this here, the challenges of a reflector is that profound openness. They're really open. And so they experience a lot of variability there. But this also, in a way, they have the potential to be really wise because they're learning a lot and they take in a lot of outside stimuli. And so they can process that and know, they can learn to be really wise in those areas potentially. So they're a mirror for others and can sometimes make other people uncomfortable. And so we've all experienced this, right? The whole world is essentially a mirror, but projectors or reflectors are like very in your face kind of a mirror sometimes. And so they will experience a lot of projection from people who don't necessarily want to face their own stuff or feel uncomfortable facing their own stuff. And so that can look like that person going, no, that's you, or you're the one creating this, when really it's just every time they're getting in that reflector's energy, they're seeing those things that make them uncomfortable. And so then it creates this projection field, so to speak. And so reflectors can feel it can be a frustration for them, I think. If I'm going based on the experience I've observed with Aubrey, is she can feel really frustrated because it feels like people don't see her for who she is. And there's a lot of projection going on. And so they can also struggle with enmeshment and taking things personally because there's a lot of like energy coming together. And so it can be hard to distinguish their energy from others. It can be hard for them to go, what's mine and what's theirs. And it can feel like when people around them are experiencing uncomfortable things, they kind of, and then they get that blowback or that feedback that's not so comfortable, they can take things personally because it's like, oh, this person is responding badly to me because they don't like what I'm reflecting back to them. And so they just have to know, like, it's not about them. Most of the time, I would say, I don't know what the percentage is. I'm just guessing, like 90% of the time when somebody's responding badly to you, it's not about you if you're a reflector. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, Holly, but I mean, obviously, just like anything in life, like we all have our own stuff we can work on. And that I would say could even be a challenge for a reflector, because it's like hard for them to know what's theirs and hard for them to know what belongs to other people.
Probably one of the challenges that should probably be on here that we looked over is because when we talk about centers, when they're open, that's where you're more susceptible to conditioning. Mm-hmm. And so whereas someone who, say, has the G center defined, that's their identity. And so where their identity they may feel more secure in, when someone with it open, they don't have that all of the time. So if you look at it, it's like a reflector just has, it's really challenging for them to differentiate what's me and what's not.
Yeah. And it almost feels like confusion to me. Like a lot of the time it's like, oh, I need to like, and again, I'm going off my experience with Aubrey, but it feels like this, like, I almost like sorting out puzzle pieces and trying to like separate the energy, because there's that enmeshment that kind of happens.
And if they don't know what's going on, I mean, it's 1%.
Yes.
Most people are going to have no clue what you're talking about.
Yep. They're not going to know.
Reflector child, it's so different. It's so different. And so
it's important for them. I feel like for a reflector, it's important for people in their life to know these things about them, because they can feel really unseen. They're such a small part of the population.
Well, and what a gem though, because that little kid is going to essentially be the barometer for your family.
Yeah.
Or your community. But you have to match it with teaching that little kid good boundaries.
Yes. So that's one of the last things we talked about here, is holding good energetic boundaries is a challenge for reflectors, and they just need to learn what that looks like for them, and possibly work on some deconditioning and stuff like that, because the conditioning can essentially create bad boundaries. So reflectors, just like projectors, they could benefit from sleeping alone. They can definitely take in the energy, especially if they have a generator or manifesting generator, they'll take in that person's energy, and it may be hard for them to sleep. They can feel pressure to make decisions quickly. So, there's a lot of things in life where you have to decide right now. When you go to a car lot to buy a car, you can't necessarily wait 28 days to buy the car you want. And so they can struggle in pressure situations where somebody's like, you need to decide right now. And it's just important for them to know that. They can experience energy overwhelm because they have so many open centers. They're taking in so much energy from their outside world. They can definitely, I wish I could describe this feeling. It feels like this, like, oh, I just need to get away from everyone. Almost like I need to be alone so I can just think for like 2 minutes, because they have so much coming at them all the time. And it can be, for someone who doesn't know that, I can't even imagine like what that's like for a kid who grows up feeling that. And they just feel constantly overwhelmed by all the people around them.
Yeah.
They can experience burnout really easily. So it's super important. They don't have any motors, and they will take in other people's energy, and they will burn out even faster than a projector, in my opinion, or my experience. And so it's super important for a reflector to know that, and make sure that they're just taking breaks to separate themselves from other people's energy. And they need to find a practice that helps them to like decompress that, to release the energy from their body. And that can look like lots of different things, but grounding, meditating, whatever they find works for them to help them release that energy. I know Aubrey, for her, she needs to exercise every single day, and that really helps her in a big way. But I think it could look different for each reflector on what might help them with that.
Yeah, I think different parts of the chart are going to kind of have an influence on that.
Yeah.
But
so only the fixed energy that the reflector is experiencing is those gates that are defined. And that's the one place where they can kind of have some more stable energy and know how they're showing up in each of those areas. So just to recap, the three most important parts of really that, I guess I should say the three important parts we've kind of come to understand would create the most success when it comes to knowing your chart is to understand your type, strategy, and authority and start applying that to your life, start practicing using it, see what that looks like for you. And as you do that, the gifts and all the things that are already in your chart will play out naturally. There's nothing you have to do to make them happen. And so really, if there's one thing you want to learn as far as applying human design to your life, type, strategy, and authority are the way to do it. Do you have anything you want to add there, Holly?
Yeah. There's definitely other things that are important, but straight out of the gate, this is the thing. And Holly can probably agree with this. This is often where we spend the most time with people one-on-one. It is really easy to just kind of try to skip over it because you're fine, because you want to get to the nitty-gritty stuff. You're like, what do all these numbers mean? But you could have a 12-hour reading and they could give you so much information. I liken it to, you have a track and you're off the track. It doesn't matter what you try to do to the train or what you try to do to get to where you need to go. Just get back on the track and then it's easy.
Yes.
And type and strategy and listening to your inner authority and really mastering that gets you back on the track. And so then any effort that you put into it, you go faster, you go farther.
Yes. Yep. That's a great way to describe that. Thank you. So working on these three things, if you're just gonna, if you feel like human design is overwhelming, looking at all the parts and pieces, if you could work on those three things, that's going to create more ease in your life. It's going to help you be happier, healthier, more productive. You'll have more energy. Following your type and strategy, by doing that, you can become more of who you really are and less of who you're not. It helps you to decondition those places that you have been conditioned to be something that you're not. And so I thought we had another slide where we described, did you do, oh, there it is.
I think the inner, okay, I was going to say.
Well, okay, so we would like to invite you to join us if this feels correct for you. We're inviting you projectors and we're giving you generators something to respond to. And if you're a manifestor, you're just going to know, you're going to be like, yep, I want to do this.
And if you're a reflector, you've got time because we will.
We're not going to pressure you. So we really want to cater like our offerings to fit each type in a way that they can respond to it that works for them. So, so we are doing a 6-week series on mastering your strategy, and oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. So, what type and strategies support? So this was your slide, Holly. Do you want to talk about this?
Oh, sure.
So,
move some stuff out of the way. Let's see. So some of these things are what we're going to cover. So we're going to talk about like, what does your types flow look like, feel like? We've given you the basic mechanics of it, but we really want to dive deeper into this. We want to talk about what are the common beliefs and conditioning for your type. And we're going to give you tools to heal this too. So it's great when we're reading a book and we go, oh, this is our type, this is our strategy. And then we skim off to these other things. But as Holly and I have found out, and other, the different people that we've talked to about types, we're like, oh, this is a type thing. Mm-hmm. This isn't necessarily something else, but like this really is a type thing. So again, it's recommended that people spend no less than 6 months practicing their strategy. It's not that it takes that long to master it, but
experience.
Yeah, to really have this intimate relationship with your type, your strategy, and listening to your inner authority.
I mean, trust too.
Absolutely. You have years of deconditioning to do. when it comes to how the world has told you to make your decisions. And so we've got to kind of undo that. And then again, not much in the chart matters if you're not following strategy. Like I kind of said earlier, there's 1,000,001 ways to get to your destination, but your type and strategy is going to give you the path of least resistance.
Yes.
And we encourage you to try it out.
Yeah.
Try it out, see if it works for you. Do you want to talk about this? I know I want to make sure that it's clear at the very, very bottom for people. If the 6-week thing is not right for you, we have an option for you.
Yes.
That makes sense.
We really wanted to make sure we have. So this is going to be a 6-week. Actually, it's 5.
Did we change it to 5?
I just realized that we were talking about
totally last minute.
Yes, we totally changed that last minute. So it is actually going to be a 5-week type and strategy, and you're going to classes. So it'll be we're going to focus on one type a week, and we're going to talk about your type and strategy and the inner authorities of each of those types. And there's going to be coaching. And then we're also going to there's going to be clearings. So there's going to be energy clearings to work on the beliefs and help that deconditioning. And then Holly, who is a really amazing RTT hypnotherapist, is going to create some hypnosis recordings that you can listen to for each type and strategy. How long are they going to be, Holly? Like 30 minutes?
Probably about 30 minutes. So the idea behind this, so we'll be teaming up for the class portion, the live Q&A. And so while this looks a little bit different than what we're sharing with you, the 6th week was going to be inner authorities, but now we're putting them together. We're putting a little bit more time on the live classes to cover the inner authorities. And we want to coach you through this. We want this to be a dialogue and not just us speaking at you. Mm-hmm. We want to really work with you to help you understand how this works for you. So she'll be doing the clearings, and then I'll do the hypnosis. And the idea behind the hypnosis is she's moving a lot of the stuff with the clearings. And then we're working with the mental aspect around it too, working with the subconscious mind to get your brain to create those new neural pathways to support you in a way that is specific to your type. Yes. So you might find random hypnosis things on like Success, and it says like, you get an idea and you go do it and blah, 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 blah. It's not going to
that might not be right for your type.
Yeah. And so we really wanted to create this customized support for you to understand how it works for you, feel how it works for you, but then really embrace it and love it and work with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm so excited about that. I just have to say, like, you guys, just the hypnosis part of this is worth the $3.99. Like, you are getting tons and tons of value from this class. That's all I have to say. But so we're doing a Black Friday sale. We decided we wanted to put this out there before Black Friday, so you guys have a chance to jump on it. And so it's going to be $3.99 with the coaching for the 5 weeks, and then so after Black Friday or after December 1st, it'll be $4.99. And then what we're also going to offer is for people who don't feel like they want to necessarily go through and learn about every single type and strategy. So maybe you don't have a family and you don't have a bunch of different types in your family, or maybe you only have 1 or 2 types and you feel like it's not worth it for you to go through the whole class. We're going to offer a la carte options, which basically means you can choose which class you would like to attend. And so it's going to be, if you pre-order those, it's going to be $75 if you get those ordered before December 1st. And then after that, we're going to have a member vault. And so you can purchase those at any time, but we want to offer you that discounted price if you jump on it now. And we're also, did we put this in here? Did we talk about the masterclass?
Oh, you know what? I think we went with the inner authority.
That's right.
So the next portion, do you want to go?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So we wanted to just reward you guys for hopping on this. And so for those who register for the full series by December 1st, we will be creating resources for inner authorities next. And so while you will be learning about the inner authority in your class, you won't have the healing aspect of it, like the deep dive, if that makes sense. So we want to gift you the healing bundle for your authority, or really, I mean, if I'm okay if they choose a different one, if you know.
Yeah, sure.
We didn't talk about that. I put her on the spot. Does
we
that
didn't.
feel
We're
good
still
to
we
you?
were really trying to, it's funny with 2 manifesting generators, it's like we have to throw ideas back and forth until we like land on one that we respond to and we're like, oh yeah, that feels good.
So yeah, that's what we went with, is we want to support you in this being easy for you, and you know, trusting yourself and being able to make those quick decisions, because that alone is huge.
It is. Yeah. So yeah, that's our bonus for doing that. You're going to get some healing help, the same as like, what you think we'll do hypnosis with that too, Holly? Right? Yeah. So you'll get the clearing and the hypnosis, which will be that bundle that goes with the healing your inner authority.
And that one's going to be really customized, because I really want to understand how they all work. And so I'll ask you guys lots of questions. And then it's really going to be an experience of knowing what that feels like for you. Is it a sensation in your body? Do you feel it in your body? Is it, you know, do you feel it? Do you see it? Like, there's so many gifts that people have, and they're actually, you can find them in the chart. You can know if you have the gift of knowing. You can know that if you have clairaudience. So we're gonna just get a little bit deeper, but this is the foundation. This is what you have to get first.
Yes. So if you want to go, if you're like itching, you can, there's the link there to go buy it right now if you want to. But we're going to get some stuff set up, because I still have to set up like each of the individual a la carte ones. That's going to take us a little bit of time. So we're going to get that out, I would say, hopefully soon, like in the next 24 hours, so that you have time to jump on that for that Black Friday special. So is that our last slide, Holly? Do you have anything new, Bill? Yeah. Do you have anything new? And you guys have any questions really quick? Questions. I know we've had you on here forever, but let's see. Shalise says, so I have a projector toddler that has 7 open spaces and she's really sensitive. Yes. Of course, Chantel, take all my money. I knew you would say that.
Just take all my money. That's funny.
We kind of have a running joke about this between us. So I had to laugh.
And the stuff will be there, right? Like, we want to support you guys long term. This is something that we're going to be doing. Yes. And so please don't have FOMO.
Yes, please don't.
Do what's right for you.
Really practice using your strategy.
Yeah. If this happens to be right for you, we are so happy to support you right now. When does it start? That's a good question. We didn't put that on there.
Oh, we didn't. December 8th.
Yes. We will skip a week for Christmas, and then it ends on January
12th,
I think.
So it's going to be Tuesdays.
Same time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We are flexible though.
Yes.
Like, if this just doesn't work out long term, we can.
And they will be recorded and they will be loaded into Member Vault right after the class. So if you can't be there for some reason, you'll have access to them pretty quickly. Yeah, 1 day a week. We talked about, we didn't firm this up, Holly, but I think the healing, we're going to have, those won't be available on the Tuesday. We're going to take some stuff some feedback we get from you guys in the class on Tuesday, and then create the supports as soon as we can after that. So
we really want to customize it for you guys. And so it will be a very interactive experience. So the class themselves, we'll do type, strategy, and then the inner authorities that particular type can experience. And then it'll be Q&A for that too. So it's going to be coaching. And then if you get the bundle, we'll have you, there's a Facebook group that you can go into where it will be coaching for the whole time. If you do the a la carte stuff, it's just kind of a la carte, and then you still have the support from us in the Know Thyself group. But yes, thank you for the direct message. Yes, sorry, tangent. So we'll take that and we really want to customize it for you. So tell us what it's like. Tell us the beliefs that you're experiencing. Tell us everything, because we want to know and we want to support you in that. And then the hypnosis aspect is just going to be a little bit more delayed just because it takes longer to do. Did that answer the question?
Yes. And I one thing I just wanted to add there is that, like, even for Holly and I, like, human design, it's been around since, like, what is it, 84 or 85 or something like that?
87.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and there's lots of schools of thought and there's lots of people who have lots of different interpretations. And so I would say, and I don't want to speak for you, Holly, but like for me, I feel like we don't claim to be experts, but we want to offer you the support that we can based on our backgrounds and our knowledge. And we feel like we can give you that. And so we would love feedback. Like, lots of feedback is going to help us to give you an even better support. And so, you know, human design is essentially, they call it the great experiment, because we're all just experimenting with it. And so we're experimenting just like you, and we're still learning and, you know, gathering data and seeing what works and what doesn't. And so I guess I just want to say, I don't claim to be perfect. I don't know about you, Holly. I mean, you're pretty
no. Pretty open about that.
I'm teasing you.
But I mean, in essence, it's a win-win for both sides, because we learn so much from you guys. And so we're really thankful for that too. So did anybody have any questions? Did we see anything?
Says, so there's a class stuff we do once a week, and you do them so they're going to be recordings that you listen to. So there'll be a recorded clearing and then a recorded hypnosis thing that you can listen to. Is it usually 21 days? Is that right, Holly, that you at least?
Yeah, at least 21 days, because that's really the science behind creating a new habit, especially a new neural pathway. Honestly,
longer
listen to it forever, but consecutively, the goal is 21 days. Have that in your brain. You can listen to it as you're going to sleep. Hypnosis stuff you can't do while you're driving or operating heavy machinery or dangerous things of that nature. But, you know, Holly's clearing, you can.
Yeah.
Just have it playing. And please feel free to share it with your family members that are the same type. If you buy the one a la carte, share it with your family.
Yep, absolutely.
Did that answer all those?
I hope so. So let's see. Yeah. So the healing stuff is basically just going to be another support that you can do in your own time when it works for you. So
yeah, the only one live thing and you don't even have to show up for it live. You can do the recording, but that's same bat time and the same bat channel Tuesday nights.
So any other questions? Anybody else? Okay, so I will be posting all this stuff. If you're not in the Know Thyself group, please join. We'd love to have you there and have all your feedback. And I will be posting any links and all that kind of stuff in there. We will also probably send out an email. That's why we had you all register tonight, so that we have your emails and we can send you out the info if that's something you're interested in. If you would like to rewatch this class, we're going to be posting it on the Member Vault as well. Oh, we're so glad you found it valuable, Claire. Yay.
Can I do an ask?
Yeah. Are you asking her that? Yeah.
Will you guys share in the group like your ahas and put it into practice? You know, hopefully you've been able to take in and absorb the stuff. And should we do a hashtag?
Yeah.
Type in strategy.
I love hashtags.
Hashtag type in strategy. And just let us know. We're going to have more classes like this. We're going to have more classes that are free. And Holly is super awesome about going into the group and just sharing her insights and everything. So just let us know what you've learned, how you experience it. Share your type, share your strategy, share your inner authority, and just
36 plus 28. Oh, it'll fit.
Tell us how it's working.
I wonder if I can hold on one sec. I think I can mute. There we go.
Okay. So and honestly, that helps us. So thank you. So
yeah. Thank you guys for coming tonight. We're so happy you showed up. Today was an interesting day.
I don't know how everybody else was doing today, but it was cray energy on our part.
I had a full-on meltdown last night over hair, so you don't want to hear the story. It was awful, but it's a long story, and it was not fun. But it's really funny because this is the cool thing. So like if you get into transits, Venus is in gate 28, which is the gate of struggle right now, which happens to be defined in both Holly and I's chart. So that was really interesting.
So if you guys were struggling today,
yeah,
or other people were struggling today,
oh no, Chantel. Oh jeez.
Oh my gosh, that's
oh, your poor chickies. That makes me sad. Oh geez. How many? Like 2 of them? Oh, that makes me so sad. Hopefully they weren't your daughter's. Oh, one of your favorite ones. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm sorry, my friend.
Oh my gosh, really I'm so sorry.
You and adopting your animals, stop doing that. But the dog was so sweet. Oh dang, that really stinks.
Oh my goodness.
Man.
Okay, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Holly.
Okay. We will let you go. Have a good night.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.